Hi guys, and welcome to Peter and the Oven. I'm Peter and this is my oven. Today we're going to do a sourdough bread, and somewhere I've seen it called like a basic country loaf, and this is my go-to bread and I just call it a basic loaf. It's just three things in this. It's flour, water and salt, and we're just going to dive right into it. So and as usual, the recipe is going to be in the description of the video. Water first, and then my sourdough. I'm just going to get a spatula thingy, what's it called? Dough scraper. And this has been it's been about 8 hours since this was fed, and I'm going to go into how to make your own sourdough in another video at some point. This is 250 grams, and a lot of recipes call for a bit less, but I like to be sure. So that should be it. And then I'm just gonna mix this. I'll use my hands. And then we're gonna do 3 different kinds of flour today. First, this is whole grain, and this is for taste and nutritional value. And then it's all wheat. This one is it's stone milled. It's stone milled wheat that's been sifted, but it's still got lots of bran and good stuff in it. And the last one is white flour, as you know it. This is about 11% protein, which is not quite what they call bread flour, but it performs quite well. So I'm just going to run this through on the mixer. You could do this by hand actually, because we're going to do something called auto-release, and it helps develop gluten. And soak up the water into the flour. But we're just going to go through here for about a minute or two at slow speed. Okay, so this has been stirring for just a minute or two, and we just want all the dry bits to be completely soaked in water. And it's more or less like thick oatmeal right now. And we're going to let that rest for about 20 to 30 minutes to soak up all the water, and it's going to start to develop gluten. So I'll get back to you in 20 minutes. Okay, so this has been resting for 20 minutes, and if you do that, then you don't have to knead it quite as much. As you can see, gluten is already developing. You can stretch it a little bit, and this will get even better after we do a couple of stretch and folds. But before that, we're adding the salt. Sometimes I forget this and you get really boring bread. So you could have left out some of the water and dissolved the salt into that, and then it will be mixed in more easy. But I just do this because it's so much easier. And you can mix this by hand. I tend to be lazy, so I use the machine. I'll just like a couple of minutes at low to medium speed. Okay, this has just been going for a couple of minutes to incorporate the salt. I will move it into you could keep it in the bowl, but I put it in a plastic box with a lid on it. I don't know. I like it that way. A little bit easier to do the stretch and folds maybe, but you can do it in a bowl just fine. So I am just going to do one stretch and fold now, and then we'll do that in like every 40 minutes for about 3 hours to help develop gluten, to build up strength while it ferments. Just do this with a wet hand, because then the dough will stick less. So you stretch it, fold it over, and do once each corner. If it's in a bowl, you're going to have to do something different than use the corner of the bright line. Well, 5-6 times, whatever, like that. and then put a lid on it and leave it for about 40 minutes. Okay, so the sourdough bread or the dough has been resting for the first 40 minutes, and I'm just going to wet my hand and do a stretch and fold. So in the corners, 1, 2, 3, and it's already more stretchy than it was before. Just going to get it rest here. Do one more. So, and put the lid on again and wait for another 40 minutes. Okay, this is the second or third stretch and fold, I forget. Wet hand, grab it in the corners, pull it up, fold it over. Like that. And then another 45 minutes. So this has been sitting there for another 40 minutes, roughly. We're going to do one last stretch and fold on this, and then we're just going to give it about an hour, last hour, to rest. It's got nice gluten development, and also I can feel sort of the bubbles inside it. It's a bit lighter, and when it's done, we're gonna put it out and shape it. The basic sourdough bread is done fermenting, and now I'm gonna put it out on the table and try to. I'm gonna pre-shape it. Then we're gonna shape it. Then we're gonna put it in the refrigerator. So flip it over. And I haven't dusted the table because I don't want any sort of excess flour. I want as little flour as possible without it sticking too much, because the more flour, the drier the bread. It's not really letting go this. Cheat. Just scrape it out. And I'm going to divide this into two. I usually just do this sort of without weighing it, but they should be about 900 grams each. Just going to do it like this. I'm going to flip it over and then just like form a package, really. One from each side. Well, on 4 sides, like that. Back over, and then using the scraper to tighten it up. This is in order to build strength in the dough so that it doesn't collapse while proofing and it doesn't sort of float away in the oven. So it's fairly tight. Same thing with the other one. Flip it over. It's fairly sticky from the stone milled flour and the whole grain. If you just use white flour for this, it'll stick less, I think. Flip it over, and then using the scraper, I'm using the friction on the table to tighten it, and then just turning it a little bit at the same time, like this. So, and we're going to let that rest covered for 15 minutes, and then we're going to shape it. So this has been bench resting for about 15 minutes. I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of flour on it because it tends to stick to the counter for me. So just a little bit, not too much because we don't want it. Actually, we don't really want it in our bread. Okay, so I'm going to flip it over and then I'm going to shape it. And there are many ways to do this, and this is the one I use, and I'm sure there's some people who would say, oh, that's the wrong way. Anyway, it's my way. It's not really my way, it could somebody else maybe, I don't know. This is how I do it. Okay, so I take from up here, fold it in, and again a little bit further down, and sometimes a third time if there's room for it, and then I put that one over, and this one back over, and then I sort of roll it. And if you use too much flour, it's difficult to roll it. We want to create that tension by using friction on the table. I'm going to pick this up and just put it in a proofing basket with, it's lined with the linen, and then I dusted it with flour to make sure it doesn't stick. Sometimes, if it's not too wet a dough, sometimes I don't use the linen, and that would create that pattern from the basket. Okay, I'm just going to do that again. A little bit of flour, flip it over, and then I do 3 from the sides. 1, 2, 3, and then bottom, top, and I guess this is a fold more as I roll it, and then I tighten it with the scraper. And I realize that this is by no means the official shaping of a loaf like this, but it works for me, and there are tons of videos on the internet on how to shape if you are interested in doing it the correct way, by all means. Just forgot to say that this obviously goes into the fridge now, and it can be in there for 12 hours and up to as much as 24 hours before baking it. And this slows down the fermentation, and that helps to develop more taste because it's in there longer. Also, it makes it really easy to adjust your time schedule, and you can bake it straight out of the fridge, so you can almost have bread as ready as quickly as it takes the oven to heat. So the sourdough bread has been proofing in the fridge for well, 10 hours, 12 hours, 16 hours. I've tried this after, well, 12 and upwards, almost for a full day, 24 hours. I think this has been in there for like 14 or something like that. On my pizza peel, I've got semolina flour. I like it, the dusting flour, to be a bit coarse so that the bread slides off it easier. And I'm just gonna put it out. I'm gonna score it. This is a shaving blade on a stick. I've seen some people use like the coffee stirrer from coffee houses just instead of this metal one, and it works fine. Okay, so I'm turning it over, nice and easy. And this is straight from the fridge. It's not been, you know, going to room temperature or anything. This is 45 degrees, and then I'm gonna just slice through it about 1 centimeter in depth, roughly. This takes a little bit getting used to, but it's not that bad. Okay, I'm gonna slide this into the oven, and I've created a little bit of steam in here with a pan with 2 wet towels in them, and then I'm gonna spray a little bit as well. If you spray into your oven, be careful not to hit the lamp in there, because the glass will break from the temperature shock. Just close it. And this was at 250 degrees. I'm going to turn it down to 240, and then I'm going to bake for about 35 minutes, maybe a little bit more. So our sourdough bread has been baking for about 35 minutes, and we could do this a bit more if you like. I like a darker crust, but to each his own. Just going to take it out, and it should feel fairly light, and it does. Make sure that you cool your bread before slicing into it, because it'll be a lot easier to slice. Yeah, that's the sourdough bread. I hope you'll have fun making it.